Okay, Mr. Russell Lethbridge, 10 minutes, please, Russell. Show some leadership here. These other buggers are very tardy.
Thanks, Brian. We'll see what we can do. Just to introduce myself, my name's Russell Lethbridge. We run a family grazing business on the extreme head of the catchment of the Ainsleys and Gilbert Rivers in the southern end of the Ephrata Shire, and I think we're nearly the last place in the Northern Gulf going south. It's almost like we planned this talk, but we haven't collaborated before, honestly. What Barry said had to be said, and it is absolutely relevant with regard to the grazing industry as it is today. There's huge problems out there. However, there is opportunities within all this, and I'd just like to outline a few things that I've observed to have worked. First, I'd just like to make a statement, and both Barry and Andrew mentioned the word profitability. There can't be environmental sustainability without profitability in the grazing business. It just doesn't add up. If you can't afford to put the necessary infrastructure in to fully utilise your asset, to run the correct number of cattle on your piece of land and generate a profit from that, then usually, and both Barry and Andrew touched on it, the first thing to suffer is the land. And so it goes hand in hand. You can't have sustainability without profitability, and what I'll be talking a bit about is you can't have profitability. You can't have profitability without a level of sustainability and management from a lot of different areas. I'm also the AgForce chair for the North region, which basically goes from Blackall out to the border, up across the Burdekin catchment to around Collinsville and the Cape York. The Northern Gulf is, I know areas of it are struggling with drought. However, in my region, which is currently approximately 90% drought stricken, some of them in their fourth year without any income, the Northern Gulf's a bit of a shining light at the moment, actually, because it's one of the few areas with a bit of feed in it, but the rest of it is shot. And so, having said that, the Northern Gulf, or the Gulf region, is some of the safest country in Australia with regard to reliability of rainfall. When you look at all the numbers and punch the numbers, it is one of the best. So it certainly has something going for it. As far as profitability goes, profitability in a grazing business is a function of, firstly, productivity, utilisation of asset, cost control, price received, and then something that's probably come in more recent years is outside influences. I'm just going to go through those individually now. Productivity is a function of the nutrition that we provide to animals. Now, we're not going to go through, I've only got 10 minutes to do this, but basically to have good nutrition, we have to fully utilise and effectively utilise the rainfall that falls. So we need a good water cycle. If people have an understanding of that, that means that the water doesn't run off, it goes into your soil. And the best way to do that is through effective ground cover above about 80%. Now, people that have been burnt out have a lot of rebuilding to do to get that back in there and to actually make use of any rainfall. But rainfall's probably one of the free things that we get, and if we don't fully utilise it, then it's going to bite us at both ends. Pasture quality is paramount to productivity in a beef cattle herd. That's probably an area that Northern Gulf, I believe, can play a role in helping to firstly identify and pasture species, and then the best way to introduce them. There's been a fair hold in the R&D as far as that goes across the northern part of Australia. That adds to the nutrition for our animals. With productivity, secondly, there's management that Andrew touched on. Management of your breeder herd. There's not a heck of a lot of control mating going on in the north. It's almost unheard of. It has probably had the most profound effect on our business. We've been probably doing it for 15 years in terms of controlling the hemorrhages and controlling the productivity in our herd as far as it goes. And at face value, it doesn't seem like much, but once it starts to evolve and come out, it pays dividends right through. The mapping work that the Northern Gulf has done for the businesses in the Northern Gulf is absolutely vital. The first thing you need is a plan and a map, and I don't know how you extend that information onto employees, onto family, and onto things if you don't have a plan and a map to get there, and that needs to continue absolutely, and keep the good work up. The utilisation of the asset just comes back to that mapping. The raising circles work. If we're only half using, a fair bit of the country is overgrazed and understocked, and that's purely utilisation. And the first thing we need to do is to use it and use it properly. And by that I mean both under and over utilisation are of concern, both areas. Cost control in a breeder business in the north can be extremely difficult. When supplementation was $300 a tonne, we put it out pretty liberally, and probably used it a bit too much and degraded country. I'll put my hand up. I was part of that team. Through segregation of animals, Andrew's touched on that, getting early calving groups together, targeting animals with the lick that's now $700-800 a tonne delivered to your property is the only way to survive. Without supplementation, the best our northern breed herds can return to us is 40 to 50%, or probably less in some of the western country. I'm into it. We are tied to supplementation. I'm saying it needs to be targeted, and targeted very well. Price received is a little out of our control. However, if we've got the right enterprise mix, and we understand that we've got to get the most efficient animals working on our businesses and get them to the heaviest as we can possibly do, is paramount to the success. Now, just outside the boundary fences it has been coming at us like a steam train for a little while. I believe that this is where Northern Gulf has a role to play in advocacy for the graziers in the region. This bombardment isn't going to stop. It has crippled the northern cattle industry, which it still hasn't recovered from. There's buses running around Brisbane with signs on them at the moment that this industry doesn't have an answer to. It may end up being social media and the connections that Jorge spoke about, the networking. That's probably the most effective and efficient way we can counteract. I'm talking about our animal groups, our green groups, all the bits and pieces that add add stress to a beef cattle business, right down to native title issues. I mean, we're all dealing with that stuff, and we have to deal with it. There's no problem there, but it adds to the stresses of the day-to-day business of running a cattle business. One of the just going on to the infrastructure that's required to be profitable. One of our biggest costs, because of our distance from major markets and all that thing, is transport. I think Northern Gulf has to take a holistic view at what makes a grazing business in the Northern Gulf profitable, and has an advocacy role, as in transport corridors, things like that make us more able to respond to different marketplaces. I'll just, Barry touched on the processing. You know, all these things have added up to what painted a very good picture of the grazing industry in Northern Gulf, or in the north of Australia, really is the pressures on the processing sector. A lot of, if you've done some pasture budgeting to turn off those 12 decks of cows at the end of March, and you've been told that you can't sell them until the end of February, then that all adds to the weight. The beef industry's got a long way to go. I would like to suggest that we get the basics right first, and then step into the more technical stuff. Thank you.